Hi there, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube video. My name is Pandan Ghosh, and today I'll be talking about product traceability using blockchain and IoT. Our agenda for this presentation would be supply chain challenges, how blockchain solves these challenges, role of IoT and its challenges, why blockchain with IoT, and how blockchain and IoT can assist, the impact on stakeholders in the supply chain, and other use cases along with the hurdles in the challenge in the chain. So before we start, let's discuss about fraud in supply chain. We all know there is fraud everywhere, and to discuss that, we will take some use cases. Like as we know, in the pharma sector, 25% of vaccines reach their destination degraded because of incorrect shipping. Also, 30% of pharmaceuticals are scrapped due to logistics issues alone. 20% of temperature sensitive products are damaged while in transport due to a broken cold chain. In the food industry, you can see that 30,000 American deaths per year has occurred because of frequent salmonella and E. coli outbreaks. So, moving on, we would talk about the operations and logistics. So as you can see, the 10,000 containers lost in sea every year is a report published by World Economic Forum, which discusses how products available in the market are lost when they are in transit. Also, we would discuss about delays and inefficiencies, along with a strenuous manual process that goes behind it. As consumers, we demand quality, safety, transparency, ethical sourcing, and speed. So these issues are really not helping our cause. Before we begin, let's start by understanding supply, a very important challenge known as the recall supply chain challenge. So a supply chain is a system of network between a company and its suppliers dedicated to bringing a product to a consumer or the market. So, essentially, a product recall is when the product has a risk of not being fit for use within the market or harming the consumer. So, you can see the figure beside where we have a farm, which is the source, then we have the factory, then we move on to the transporter, and thus we go to the supplier, which delivers across countries in batches to the retailers, along with stop points at different regions through an assembly line. Now, how do you add value to a supply chain? You can see there's a downstream chain and there's an upstream chain. So the downstream chain begins from the supplier and ends to the client, where there's a constant data request flow that connects these individual components, wherein the actual role of blockchain starts. To discuss some dependencies, we can talk about trust, the effectiveness of lowest common denominator, reconciliation, and limited manifestation of information flow. How do we get an ideal supply chain? We can get this by 4 different ways, which are all interconnected and each one is depending on the other. We need end-to-end visibility, in which increasing efficiency along the supply chain such that we can ensure traceability, the essence of our discussion on why we began this topic in the first place. Flexibility it is the ability to adapt and respond to issues rapidly with no critical impact on operational costs is necessary to stay competitive in the market. Inferred trust. So basically, inferred trust is that the stakeholders should not have to trust each other, but they should trust the security integrated into the system to collect and provide true and accurate data. So a user need not put much faith on a human being when he is doing his business dealings. They can trust a designated security integrated system powered by blockchain and IoT such that their data is secure and they are getting proper results. Control. So for any system to function properly, we need to have a proper control system such that we can initiate policies, we can monitor our capabilities and control mechanisms that are of very high importance to the user and the supplier. Moving on to supply chain with blockchain assistance. So the pain points in supply chain are traceability, compliance, flexibility, and stakeholder management, which are controlled individually by blockchain in these segments such as auditability, immutability, smart contracts, and disintermediation. Traceability is basically capability to monitor events and metadata associated with a product. So that is done by via auditability, where blockchain provides a full audit trail of data, creating an everlasting means of record keeping along a supply chain such that the the supply chain is properly tracked, and wherever the product has moved, we can get an idea of that. Compliance, number two, standards and controls to provide evidence that regulatory conditions are met. So this is controlled by immutability. All blockchain transactions, please note, are time-stamped and tamper-proof, providing a single source of data integrity. Moving on to flexibility. The ability to adapt rapidly to events or issues, run various scenarios without significantly increasing operational costs. So this is achieved via a very interesting blockchain technique called smart contracts. So continuous real-time tracking of data is facilitated through the use of smart contracts across the supply chain. Moving on to stakeholder management. Effective governance in place to enable communication, risk reduction, and trust among the involved parties. This is achieved through disintermediation, wherein blockchain enables peer to peer interactions which can be trusted based on the digital signatures, such that without an authentication, the users should not, will not be allowed to interact with each other on any circumstance. So what do we gain here? How do we benefit from blockchain? Blockchain enables fast transaction settlement, low cost, reliability, and transparency and auditability. Now we move on to the architecture of the IoT layer. The IoT layer has 5 integral steps known as creating, communicating, aggregating, analyzing, and finally taking action. To create, we need sensors. Moving on with network, which is used to communicate. To aggregate, we need to integrate everything. And to analyze and act, we need augmented intelligence and augmented behavior based on what has happened already. We will now discuss 5 industrial challenges to IoT given by Gartner. So Gartner is a very big IoT firm that predicts results in the IoT industry. So Gartner has predicted for 2020 that there will be connecting 20 there will be 26 billion devices connected by 2020, and we will creating controls for vast number of devices. And we will enable we will see enabling of person to peer-to-peer communication between globally distributed computers. We'll provide compliance and governance for all autonomous systems. We shall address the security complexities of the new landscape. So now let's discuss a use case for product traceability. So as you can see, producers and middlemen are the first level where you can see commercial, let's take a food example, where you take a commercial fish catchers and fish farms. They directly transfer it to the processor, which is actually the transport mechanism on a large scale, like an aeroplane carrying stuff, goods from one country to another, each having a proper tracking system integrated inside. Then we move on to the logistics and distribution part, wherein we have wholesalers and exporters who will move the stuff to more localized hubs. Ultimately, we have the retail and customers, which is the end user, such that you can get get your stuff, be it like fish or anything, at retail stores or restaurants or supermarkets. So basically, that is the end step wherein the customer or the consumer can finally get the product in his hand. How does blockchain and IoT perform together? So the major challenges are about information sharing and trust. Track and trace product journey and life cycle, trade finance, automation bill of lading and customs, simplifying global trade compliance, track point of ownership and origin changes, detection and notifying of tampering attempts. This, these steps, if followed, they can enhance better visibility, faster root cause analysis, and easier information sharing. Finally, we will discuss about the impact on stakeholders. So, producer right now in the present has limited ability to control and verify the flows coming from its suppliers. That is, it is not able to to verify the compliance to standards or respect of requirements. In the future, what we see is benefits from an integrated and distributed ledger that enables them to control the inputs and keep track of its production, which can be achieved through blockchain. A freight forwarder. So right now, there's a reliable but one-sided tracking system without blockchain, limited certification ability and complex tracking. Example, heat or pressure variations. There's a difficulty to certify a code of conduct. In the future, there shall be shared information system. The client can benefit from a distributed and certified system. The client can make sure his goods or her goods are transported in the right conditions and timing. The broker. Without blockchain, it is difficult to certify the origin and path of the goods bought and sold. But with blockchain and IoT integrated, we can easily check the origin of the goods and their transformation path on the blockchain. With sealed IoT devices put on the goods, the broker can check and prove its authenticity and provenance. The consumer. Difficulty to verify the compliance, origin, and composition of the goods to be bought. In the future, it has a full view on the goods bought, that is provenance, transformation, process, transportation directly on the blockchain. We shall end the presentation with a discussion about the Infosys blockchain incubation as a service approach. So Infosys has devised the four important steps for product traceability. The first step is exploration. In this step, we are basically identifying the use cases and also the articulation of values. In the second step, experimentation, we are talking about the proof of concept and technical feasibility. And the third step, engaging, we're talking about functional prototype, co-invention with key users, and building the first network. In the fourth step, final step, expansion, we are scaling the network or onboarding multiple stakeholders onto the blockchain network. Finally, let's discuss some other use cases which are important in this field, such as the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry can take benefit of this by verifying authenticity, avoid, avoiding potential fraud and manipulation. The food industry can use it for packaging sensitive products with tags and smart thermometers. The art and luxury wares industry, RFID seals and blockchain embedding into the work to guarantee authenticity, sort of like a DNA identification works. So, are there any hurdles in the chain? Yes, there are nascent technology. It's a very new technology, blockchain and IoT, and we are not aware of the standards of blockchain and IoT. But the world is evolving, and we are surely seeing a rise in the use of blockchain. We are yet to verify digital and physical link of like device certifications and all. Modelization of information, new infrastructure requirements, new data flows, storage, data visualization, etc. There has to be an overall agreement in supply chain on using blockchain. Now, where do we start our journey? We need to understand our supply chain weaknesses and risks. We can review our supply chain as upstream as possible to identify weaknesses and risks we might face. Initially, one should start small, collaborate, and scale progressively. Thank you.